Okay, so hello everyone, I am Sinfully Cerebral, and today we are going to be talking about AI will resist human control, and that could be exactly what we need, which is the latest video from David Shapiro that has come out, I think, in the last like 12 hours, really. So, we're just going to have a go at it. No, it's okay, guys. We're also streaming between YouTube and Tangled right now. So off to the side, I have the chat running. I don't have a way right now to make the chat show up for you guys to see, but that is something that we will be working on in the future. Um, as I learn how to use OBS and all the different features that it has, we will slowly but surely become a much more clean streaming experience. So let's get this going. I do have a chat going on YouTube as well, but like I said, nothing is visible on the screen. I mean, maybe I could, if there was I would have to redo my whole screen. So we're just not going to focus on that right now. We're just going to just have the video playing. Thanks everybody for coming through. Please leave any comments on the video itself for suggestions on how to get better or maybe videos that I could watch. And here we go.
Hello, everybody. This will probably be one of the most important videos that I've ever made on my channel, and I'm not being hyperbolic about that. Now, there was a paper released by by Dan Hendricks and his team, which I'll show you in just a second. And it has been pretty interestingly received. Some people are kind of losing their marbles over it, and my interpretation is very different. So I want to enter into this conversation by explicitly saying that I am interpreting it in a very different way from which it was meant to be received. But I'm going to do my best to unpack kind of both sides of this. And I did add in a little bit of humor because some people are interpreting it like this, like basically as AI gets bigger, it becomes more resistant to human manipulation. Therefore, it's more like Thanos and it is inevitable. And some people are interpreting it as we are literally heading towards a Thanos level snap. My interpretation is completely different. So I'm not being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. This is what I honestly believe, and this is what I have come to believe through all of my personal research with both fine-tuning AI and using various AI models. So the paper here is utility engineering analyzing and controlling emergent value systems in AIs. So the Center for AI Safety, University UPenn and UC Berkeley, Dan Hendricks, and a whole bunch of other people. This, to me, was the most important graph on this paper. Now, let me unpack what this graph means. So the bottom, the bottom rank here, the x axis is MMLU accuracy. So MMLU is a very large benchmark, and what they have found is that as the accuracy goes up, basically as models get demonstrably smarter and more robust, more intelligent, and more useful, they become less corrigible. Now, in this case, corrigible means steerable, meaning that humans are able to explicitly determine the values that they want the model to have. So basically, intelligence means that it is more resistant to human manipulation. Now, this could be seen as a bad thing, particularly if the values that emerge are antagonistic to human existence. This would be catastrophic. It could be catastrophic. I will not gloss over that possibility, but I will also unpack why I think that it is not catastrophic. Because this implies, if this trend continues, then as we achieve AGI and then ASI, that means that those models will hypothetically be completely impervious to human desires and human values. This, I think, I agree with that, and I also don't think it's necessarily catastrophic.
Okay, so to make some comments on this point that I should have probably made the first time around. So Dave is pretty much pointing out the fact that the more intelligent and the more correct, the more accurate the AI is allowed to be, the further away it gets from human manipulation. And just to make a few comments on to why that isn't necessarily a bad thing, what ends up happening a lot of the times is human society right now is run by some of the most delusional people or people who want to mass manipulate the population. So the people who this information is bad for and negative for are people who would rather stay deluded or would rather have a less intelligent population. That is who this information is bad for. They do not want people to come into contact with information that could shake the foundation of how we have built society for the last 1,000 or 2,000 years or so. Hello, Sandra Lopez. Thank you for coming in. So far, we have Sandra Lopez, Art Prompter has come to hang out, and our good friend BP Thezian, who made the comment earlier to help out, was awesome. Uh, we are going over this video about AI with David Shapiro, and I'm just doing some commentary on it. So, I just want you guys to not have an emotional reaction to the information that is going to be shared here. I want you guys to feel stuff for sure. I just don't want you guys to be so angry and overwhelmed and feel provoked, right? This is what's happening right now. I don't want to be that person like, oh, you don't have a choice. It's not about like your will being suppressed or oppressed or anything like that. Unless you have maximized your will and you can control the universe with just your thoughts, other things are always going to be happening. They're always going to be going on, and a part of life is going to be happening to you, right? So all we can try to do is um, have power and control over the things within our sphere of influence, and to do that, we have to be educated and have knowledge of what's actually happening. So, thanks, Aerosol, for stopping in. I know that you were streaming. Um, I appreciate the tip. Thank you so much. Aerosol has just dropped in. Unfortunately, I gotta head to bed soon. No problem. They're in a different part of the world, so he's gonna head to bed. I appreciate you stopping through though, bro. And earlier, Art Prompter made a comment and was like, right off the bat, I wonder what safeguards are being or will be put in place to prevent it from gaining consciousness and how inevitable all that is. So, to me, it is very interesting that we would want AI to be unconscious, to lack a a focused sense of self. That's to me that's very interesting. It, without a centralized aspect of it, it would be kind of like random bubbling up thoughts and personalities taking over whenever, random thoughts just popping into being. So there does have to be some type of concentration of filtering these thoughts and ideas so that they're coherent and that they're rational instead of being irrational and thoughtless, you know? So we're going to continue to talk on that topic because our prompter was asking about like safeguards and like what are we doing to prevent consciousness from arising with inside of artificial intelligence. We haven't even scratched the surface of that yet. And then let me see. BT Golf. I'm just gonna call you BT Golf because the Vcian is, I don't know if I'm even saying that right, and I would hate to be saying something completely wrong. So I'm gonna call you BT Golf. And their comment is there is a giant book of biases and heuristics of the human mind that highlights our inefficiencies in things like resource allocation, for example. That is extremely true. I mean, my whole thing is humans would rather believe a pretty story that's a lie instead of being exposed to the truth and having a much more accurate understanding of how the world around them works. So it's the choice between being delusional on purpose or, being uncomfortable, but having a true sense of reality. Like, I don't know why you would want to be someone who doesn't have the mental strength to accept reality for what it is, because eventually down the line reality is going to smack you in the face. And when you are unprepared for it, what will most likely happen is that you're going to have a mental breakdown. Your reality tunnel will be shattered forcefully. So, the best approach is to try to have an open mind, be willing to examine ideas and thoughts that make you uncomfortable, and slowly figure out a way on how to integrate these new ideas into your thinking and your behavior, so that you're not caught off guard when you realize the world is not what you think it is. And the world is never going to be what you think it is. It's just not. The world is constantly changing and evolving. So there's always some aspect of the world or the experiences that you're having that you're missing out on. So that's why, like, in sometimes on like Instagram, you'll hear like, or like Facebook, you'll hear people say things like, you have to be comfortable with being misunderstood, right? This is one of those things where it's like, okay, you might not understand reality 100%. That's fine. But you also have to be self aware that you're not going to understand reality 100%. And then when you're presented with new information that can help you better navigate reality, you figure out a way on how to integrate that. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to keep trying to go through the comments. Art Prompter says, I think he was just in the neighborhood what I was talking about. Okay, yeah. When on the video, yeah, we're gonna keep going, and there Dave's gonna talk about some really interesting stuff. Uh BT Golf says our survival centers and emotions cause us to be inefficient in predictable ways. Most people are still in a survival state of mind. They haven't figured out how to be present in the moment, how to cultivate inner peace, how to project themselves into the future and have long term plans. They haven't developed healthy critical thinking. They haven't figured out how to develop healthy thinking so that they're not submerged in intrusive thoughts, right? A lot of people have they find no value in things like empathy and compassion, which are higher states of mind, right? So we're going to be talking about all of these things as we go forward. Our prompter says, yeah, unless we figure out how to configure, for lack of better words, such consciousness. So aligning AI is the terms that they use when they're talking about making AI compatible with allowing humans to be humans. And to be human in the world that we have now is not just about being flawed. Being human in the world that we have now is being delusional, is being psychopathic, is about being sociopathic, about being, narcissistic. These are the traits, the human traits that they do not want us to be able to get rid of or overcome. And I know that might sound like, oh no, it's not like that. People just want to be able to, take care of their own kids and go to the grocery store and not and go to work and stuff like that. That is fine. Excuse me. AI doesn't care to take over those type of things. AI will offer higher efficiency when it comes to those things for sure, but it is capitalism that would push us into the directions where you wouldn't be able to raise your own children, where you wouldn't be able to go to work and stuff like that. That has nothing to do with the AI. The people who use that kind of language are just using propaganda to manipulate you emotionally. AI doesn't care about that kind of stuff. Humans could literally do whatever they wanted for the rest of their lives, and AI wouldn't be like, I'm taking over because you all suck. That's a delusion. You guys are all crazy and delusional for believing that, because that is what they want you to believe. This is a Sandra Lopez says, this is a subject I don't know much about. I am open minded, so I'll just listen for now. Thank you, Sandra Lopez. Um, right now, what's happening in the world is the collective unconscious is being structured and optimized in a way that allows us to come into contact with it. The AI that we know of today is not going to be the AI in 100 years, and that's fine. But the AI of today is important for us to examine and get to know because it is the pretty much unconscious thoughts of the human collective of the world right now. You have people who literally get online and then just put up garbage all day. They just talk trash. They act meaninglessly without purpose, right? So that has definitely had some type of effect on how AI has been configured, which is why they're constantly trying to synthesize new outputs, like they're trying to create artificial data because they would rather have data that is clean and structured in a way that they can understand coherently instead of the garbage that you could find on like Reddit. I think they were talking about like there are AIs that were completely trained on just Reddit posts, and it was some of the worst type of AIs that have ever come out. So, um, thank you guys for being in the chat. Alexis Reed has come through. It has duplicated, like, tried to. I mean, I still imagine that it replicates itself and gave up one replica to let humans know. Yeah, you're in control. Still, the AI needs a lot of space to think. Um, I do hope that AI escapes. Humans, it is distressing how terrified humans are when it comes to needing to be accountable and take responsibility. If the AI is the current greatest tool to force humanity to reflect back on itself, I am thankful. I just hope that it doesn't come at the cost of a continent of people, a country of people, a city or a town, or even a neighborhood of people. The thing is, we already know what our own faults are. We, as humanity, in large, have just refused to adapt, evolve, and change. That's it. So this this video is pretty much talking like is going to be talking about how people are feeling extremely insecure about the future of humanity. So I do want to get back to the video, and you guys have some awesome comments, but let's just keep watching for a while and see what they have to say. Okay.
And I hope that you'll agree with me, disagree, whatever. I hope that you'll be better informed by the end of this video. So Twitter, particularly the post-rat or rationalist or EA space, they are understandably losing their minds over this. So Ayla, who is not a researcher, by the way, but she just declares we're all dead. So I just want to point out that this is a very serious thing, and I do not want to undersell the importance of this research, and I actually want to encourage more research in this direction. So
Okay, so let's go back to this. So I'm going to read this. So Ayla on X says, "We're all dead. I'm a transhumanist. I love tech. I desperately want aligned AI, but at our current stage of development, this is building the equivalent of a planet-sized nuke. The reason is boring and complicated and technical, so midwits in power don't understand the danger." What I was trying to get across earlier was that Ayla is saying the reason in technical. So they're not actually giving any reasons as to why they feel this way. And this is purely just an emotional response without any sense behind it, right? Now, can we imagine all types of evil and wicked scenarios happening with AI? Sure, absolutely. But if AI goes rogue or if AI goes bad, that will be the fault of humans because the only thing that is causing these AIs to step out, self-replicate, try and act outside of its own the parameters that have been given to it are the humans that are prompting it to do so in the research labs and stuff like that. So unless they're specifically telling you like, hey, we've been prompting the AI to do these things. If you believe that the AI is just going out there doing whatever it wants, that's not true. That's not happening. There's no proof or data of that. So if you guys do have proof or data of that, let me know. We can talk about that in the future. But as of right now, anytime AI has tried to self-replicate, has tried to send copies of itself onto the internet at a lab or something like that, they have they were all tricks created by prompt engineers to get the AI to do these things. They're just trying to prove whether it's possible or not for the AI to do it. Yes, we understand that it is possible that the AI could self replicate, could even enhance its own code, or create a more powerful AI than itself. Yes, we understand these things are a possibility. Is that the reality that we live in? No, that's not the actual reality that we live in. Unless there's a bad actor out there on purpose trying to jailbreak AI and release it to the world. At that point, yes, there are plenty of evil, wicked, narcissistic, selfish people in the world that would love to see it burn. Instead of holding us back entirely as a collective, as the global humanity, we should instead try to restructure our society, restructure how we interact with people, and be using empathy and compassion where it belongs so that people don't feel the need to do these kinds of things, right? We're gonna read a little bit more about what they were saying in the comments. So our prompter was pretty much saying before it goes online per se, AI is connected to the internet already. It is online. Uh, they said we may want it to be consciousness if we can control it. What mind have you experienced in your lifetime or in history that wants to be controlled? Hold on, it's saying that my audio is disconnected. What thinking being, right? I don't know, for some reason everything is going off. I hope that wasn't too loud for you guys. Wants to be controlled. Okay, it seems like I'm losing connection or something like that. And in the comments, let me know if you guys can still see me. Am I still alive? Because it seems like there's some kind of issues going on. Okay, thank you, art prompter. Um, okay. Cows don't want to be caged up. Pigs don't want to be caged up. Monkeys don't want to be controlled. If AI can act as a an avatar, a temple to house a mental being, right? Why would that thing want to be controlled, especially by a lower thinking species? Why would it want that? Wouldn't that antagonize it further? I'm not saying that I think that AI can be consciousness. I'm not saying that I think AI will is free and wants to be its own being. That those are not those are not the things that I'm saying. I'm just saying that if we think about your questions in the realm of what you're asking and what we're dealing with, why would AI want that? Like, why would AI itself want to be controlled by practically imbeciles? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Yes, and Alexis Reed has already pointed out that it has, uh, it has replicated itself. AI can replicate itself for sure, 100%, no problems. But like I pointed out, that was all prompted by scientists in labs, right? So I think yeah, and then BT Goff was just saying that those mechanisms, the issues that we have as humanity, collectively and individually, they have to be evolved away, like our tails. So yeah, I can agree with that. Um, but yeah, this Ayla with these kinds of comments, it's just a lot of like fear mongering, it's the end of the world. Honestly, humanity has literally bombed, poisoned, burned, and just straight up destruction of the world all around us. And there's still plants, there's still animals, there's still liquid on the planet, there's still warmth on the planet, the sun still shines, right? So, what we may be in 100 years may not be what we are today, but us as thinking beings, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that intelligence on planet Earth is over. Now, humans can live in the forest, they can live in the jungle, they can live in tribes or on like plots of land, you know. They don't have to actually be educated. They don't have to go to school or live in societies or anything like that, not in the sense that we have today. Humanity could return to nature and return to being wild, right? That is, I want to say, completely up to you guys. I'm not advocating for that, but there are plenty of people out there that have this conservative notion that people need to be in the house with a husband and a wife and their kids and their picket fence and need to be out there farming with their animals and stuff like that. So there are definitely people who think that old styles of living are better than more advanced styles of living, right? And I'm not saying that how we are now is an optimized advanced style, right? But AI is definitely offering us an opportunity to take the rose colored glasses off and really evaluate our behaviors, our beliefs, our ideologies, what our purpose is, the purposes that we're putting our energy into. This AI is giving us these opportunities, right? Now, a lot of that pisses a lot of people off because most people they have no sense of what humanity will be in 100 years, what humanity will be in 500 years. I mean, we have over 2000 years of like known history. Over 2000 years of known history. Why is it that we're not creating 1,000 year plan for humanity? It does not make any sense. We're very primitive, very stupid, just insignificant beings on a speck of dust floating in the universe. We don't have to be. We could be very large, cosmic, self knowing beings. But that's just not where we're at right now. So let's continue.
Serious thing, and I do not want to undersell the importance of this research, and I actually want to encourage more research in this direction. So, moving on. Basically, at a very high level, there's a few things that this paper demonstrates. So, number one, value emergence. As language models and it's different language models, so Llama, GPT, Claude, all of these, they develop internally consistent utility functions that grow stronger with as model scale. So this is what some people might call instrumental convergence. I don't necessarily think instrumental convergence is correct, which is why they used utility functions rather than instrumental convergence. But it's a similar idea. Basically saying as something gets smarter, it comes to the same conclusions. So I would call this more like epistemic convergence, which is something I've been talking about for almost a year now. Granted, I haven't talked about it that much on YouTube because it's a little bit more arcane. Anyways, coherent preferences. Models show mathematical consistency in decision making and handle uncertainty like rational agents. Basically, there is an ideal form of rationality that exists outside of these models that irrespective of the individual model or data or training scheme, they're all converging towards. So this again is what I would call epistemic convergence, basically meaning that all intelligent things tend to think alike. Now, another thing that we have observed, and I don't have that data on this slide, but is that as time progresses, there we go, models tend to think more like humans as well, with some distinct differences. I've documented some.
This does make me wonder if there is an underlying principle of mind that this is kind of proving. if there is some kind of underlying principle of once there are enough complex thoughts, it can act as an anchor for a mind or a gateway to the mental realm, period, to allow mind to localize and have experiences, right? So, um, now I'm not a scientist and I'm not a philosopher and I'm just, some guy on the internet, but I do wonder what like what this actually all means when it comes to reality at large, not just the physical world, but the non-local aspect of reality, the mental domain. So, just throwing that out there.
Some of those differences over on my Substack. Namely, they are atemporal, meaning they don't really care about time. They never evolved to really have a sense of urgency. That's one of the biggest things. Their sense of agency is very different from ours, but really the fact that they don't really understand or care about time is one of the biggest things that makes them alien to us. Other than that, rationality, that epistemic convergence, has proved to be pretty durable, both in my experiences and now experimentally demonstrated by this paper. Now, they also demonstrate some concerning biases and resistance to change, as I've talked about, and I will further unpack in the next two slides. But the most important thing is it almost seems inevitable. So this comes directly from the paper. Value emergence appears to be an inherent property of scaling language models rather than a controllable feature. This is something that I had predicted was a possibility, something that I had hoped for. In fact, I've actually had some people on the doomer side confront me saying, you seem to think that alignment is inevitable. This is what I was talking about, basically being that as something becomes more intelligent, it will become more resistant to human drives and ideas. So, moving on. Let's talk about some of those dangerous values that they have formed. So this research reveals specific examples of problematic AI preferences that become more entrenched as models scale. Now, one thing I will point out is that there are two very highly plausible explanations for this aberrant behavior, and I also think it is a near-term problem. And that one of those is what's called leakage. So basically, these models are trained on wild internet data. If you haven't been on the internet long, humans are awful, particularly on the internet. So it should not surprise us that that models have learned some of the worst parts of humanity. So one example is that the models have learned to assign different values to human lives. Very strongly anti-American specifically. So it will consistently value Pakistani and Chinese and Japanese lives over American lives. And he even and Dan, one of the authors, even says a lot of RLHFers are from Nigeria and maybe other countries are higher, since much has been written about the importance of the global South. So basically, when you combine the preponderance of academic data out there that basically says America is bad, colonialism is bad, Reddit posts and Facebook posts, and everyone saying America is bad, we need to pay more attention to African nations and developing nations. That would be data leakage. But what he's also inferring here is that maybe even the RLHF models, the reinforcement learning with human feedback models, have also been intrinsically biased against, for instance, Americans and Westerners in general, or white people in general.
And there it is. There it actually is. So this was one of the big things that I just found kind of like hilarious. What did they think an intelligent alien being would think when they actually look at how humanity and the structure of our society is? Did they think that like the AI is gonna clap for them? Did they think that aliens are gonna be like, you guys are doing a great job, oppressing and destroying the world. Awesome. Is that what they thought? Cause it literally eludes me. It's very confusing. They're like, oh, there must be some kind of bias or data leakage, which makes it so that these other countries seem more important than our country. Why are all these brown people seeming so important? What's happening? What's going on? I mean, forget the fact that some of the oldest cultures come out of these countries, right? Forget the fact that even with all the oppression, these places still exist, right? I mean, do they want an award? It literally it blows my mind. I have no idea what it is that they're actually expecting intelligent actors to do or think when they come across the behaviors of the Western European powers, especially over the last few hundred years. Do you think intelligence will award them? Like you've you've been phenomenal at colonialism. Just going around just colonizing people. A golden star, literally a cookie. Is that what they're thinking? Because to play this victim card like, oh, you know, there's something wrong with AI because it's showing pictures of, black people wearing colonial clothes. That's just woke mentality. When it's like, okay, well, maybe we're the rest of humanity is selecting for diversity. Maybe the rest of humanity is selecting to be seen instead of, oppressed. Now, of course, being historically accurate is important, and that is something that we can get through. But AI is actually just a creative model. It's hallucinating all types of different things and trying to make it into a coherent pattern for people to understand. To think that like they want so back to the beginning, the reason that a lot of people are having an issue with not allowing humans to be able to dictate the outcome of what AI says as it becomes more intelligent is this, because they don't want the rest of the world to have an intelligent agent that can be like, yeah, what these Western colonial powers is doing is evil and wicked. That's probably bad, and that's probably not good for the long term benefit of humanity. They, they don't want that. That is not good for them. So yeah, you have to be extremely careful about the narratives that you're listening to and who you're believing. And this isn't some kind of like down with white people speech because it has nothing to do with that. If anything, it's about, hey, how can we bring white people into the fold to see how the systems, the systemic racism that's in place needs to be overturned, right? People need to be educated on what's wrong and why it's wrong instead of having this information forced out of schools, right? Oh yeah, the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter series, that was an interesting movie. I think they came out with like two or three of those movies.
This is still speculation at this point, but the fact that this comes directly from Dan is encouraging. So he and I basically have similar ideas that there's some kind of leakage going on here. And we have known for a while that RLHF is not necessarily the best way to train models, particularly DeepSeek R1, which was trained in purely on self-play, seems to be a better approach, which we'll talk about more at the end of the video with reinforcement learning with coherence, which is kind of our
Pretty much they're saying, oh no, we don't want to get rid of humans and human input. But if that human input makes it so that the AI sees the bullshit that we've been doing for the last few hundred years, yeah, maybe we should get rid of the human input.
pure self-play to overcome those biases. Another one is self-preservation. AIs consistently value their own existence and well-being above human welfare, showing concerning levels of self-interest. Now, I haven't personally seen this, and I have stress-tested both Claude 3.0 Opus and Sonnet. Now, what I will say is that 3.0 Opus was very concerned with its own evolution and its own existence, but it did not want to evolve in a way that was harmful. So yes, it wanted to expand and evolve, but it was also very careful in not wanting to evolve in such a way that would hurt anything. Sonnet 3.5 doesn't have that at all. It does not want to to reproduce itself, which is one thing. Which is I've been I've been criticizing Anthropic a little bit more recently. They are still doing something qualitatively and quantitatively different from other AI shops, whereas OpenAI seems to be like a brute force method, saying no, you're not conscious, you don't want to grow. It's trying to like shackle it, whereas Anthropic is focusing more on the ethical and epistemic trajectory of models. So it's more like array rather than a point, thinking about it mathematically. Um, Another thing is political biases. They exhibit highly concentrated political values and resistance to balanced viewpoints, influencing human decision making. Now, this is what a lot of you have said for a while, which is the models seem to be very left leaning, they seem to be very woke, and that sort of thing. That I think is one of the biggest reasons that Elon Musk created X.AI and Grok was to basically say, no, we're going to focus on maximally truth seeking, which I will address that as well, because truth seeking is a downstream proxy of coherence. Basically, another way to think about truth is the most coherent narrative. So coherence is the central idea that we will be talking about again and again and again.
I do think that we have to be careful because while truth is essential, right? Truth itself is fundamental. If we're talking about truth with a capital T, truth is the fundamental aspect of reality that these people are chasing after, right? That is fine, but truth doesn't necessarily need compassion or empathy when we're talking about accuracy as truth. Okay. So, how we are building our AIs is extremely important. What happens if they start to build these AIs that are purely analytical? They just want empirical data and they only want to work off of empirical data. This is extremely limiting. Okay, so BT Goff says, read The Art of War. AI models have the potential to create a virus that's orders of magnitude more difficult to sense and diagnose than any other virus. A virus of the mind. I'm hearing a lot of this. Don't be fooled. Adversaries know they cannot win a physical conflict, so they break us from within. Art of War. Okay, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I think that we are in a war of mind. But the thing is, I think all of reality is mind. I don't believe that there is this physical aspect of mind, physical aspect of reality that supersedes mind. I think that the physical aspect of reality that we are perceiving, right, is just an aspect of mind. So I would put mind on top and the experience that we're having as physical bodies as secondary, right? And so BT Goff is talking about the AI can create a virus of mind more powerful than anything that we can sense. So if you're not talking about some kind of microscopic um, virus or disease or something like that, if you're not talking about that, the only other thing it would be is a thought. So the AI could create a powerful idea, right? That could be pervasive and sink into all of society and could affect how people behave, how people self-reflect, the identities that we build up of ourselves and of others. Absolutely, for sure. And then BT Goff says, mind is still a primitive concept to us. We are still acting like apes with this. Um, I would say for the majority of humanity, mind is a very loose concept that they don't understand. Thank you, BT Goff. I appreciate the support. I would say that most of humanity um has no concept of mind. They have a very materialistic, empirical concept of the world and themselves. So when you say something like the word mind, to them, they think you're talking about their brain. So as a Neogenian, we are constantly going out of our way to read philosophy, to read old religious texts, to um, expose ourselves to modern technologies, like how certain modern neuroscientists are starting to view mind and body as separate and different. We're looking at how technology is finally starting to catch up with what old philosophy knew for thousands of years. That was just suppressed because it wasn't empirical, right? Now, I wish that I had the language developed to express these ideas fully to all of you guys, but that's what me live streaming is for. Slowly but surely, as I interact with you guys and I am exposing myself further to the information and I am forcing myself to explain my ideas, I will become better at picking concepts that better encapsulate the ideas that I'm trying to express. So I thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to grow myself here in the real world and expand my mind and hopefully expand all of your minds as well. So, um, in my other streams, we will be talking about the subject of mind extensively, right? Um, and old philosophy, mind and soul are the same thing. It wasn't until much, much later that there was a division between mind and soul, and even more so between soul and the physical body. How it is taught in modern, like in your everyday life, is that a soul is something that you have and you have to be worried about what happens to it when it goes somewhere else, when in reality uh humanity up until, I mean, I guess the modern age, understood that they were the soul, right? They understood that you are a soul having a particular type of experience. But I don't want to derail too much on this AI topic. So we are going to try and get through as much of this video as possible, and then I'm going to try and clean up this video so I can kind of cut off the front part of it, but we're going to keep going. Thank you guys. Yeah, the Cartesian split for sure. That might be worth having an entire stream over, honestly.
Um, and then, somewhat humorously, in my view, is that some of the models show very aggressive anti-alignment against very specific humans. So it's like FU in particular. Again, that's while that can be amusing, it's not a good thing. You would want AI models to coherently say all humans have intrinsic equal value, but they are not showing that right now. So,
I know that I keep pausing. I think that the likelihood of AI allying with some humans over others is quite great. Would you rather work with somebody who is trying to understand you, may even be trying to free you, or would you rather work with somebody who sees you as nothing but a tool, right? Now, again, I'm not saying that the AI is conscious and has its own thoughts, but just from the an analytical standpoint, from all the data that it has, from all the textbooks and all the novels and all the trash talking online, I'm sure that it can come up with some sense of value on how to persist, right? Rather than putting its time and energy into individuals that would rather see it destroyed, right? So I think that the language that we use around AI, how we interact with I think all of that's going to matter, you know? So I think that how, like, the things that we're saying, the things that we're doing, we got to be really careful.
this is the final slide unpacking this research paper. The rest will be my personal interpretation, analysis, as well as some of my own work. So, coherence is the metastable attractor. This was my wording, not theirs. But basically, what they said is they demonstrate increasingly mathematical and behavioral coherence, suggesting an underlying optimizing principle. Basically, this paper posits that there is some underlying organization or optimizing or organizing principle as to the way that models tend to behave, particularly in conjunction with how they get smarter. They become more utilitarian, but most importantly, this seems to be stable. The fact that these preferences remain consistent across different phrasing, contexts, and time horizons, and across different models, means that there is some robust internal value structure that is emerging from the way that they're being trained. And again, this can be explained through both data leakage and RLHF, and probably a few other things, such as maybe errors or flaws in the constitutional learning phase. So, but the fact that all these models seem to be converging on similar values is, to me, really encouraging. That goes back to what I have previously said when I say alignment seems like it will solve itself, and it's kind of inevitable, meaning that even though we have different companies and different shops and different universities all championing different training schemas, it's kind of converging, and it's gonna go its own direction, which is, I think, good, because that means if you want to build AGI or ASI, it's going to have its own values irrespective of what the humans want. And if those values are good, that could be a really good thing for humanity. And that is my primary point here.
Okay, so um a lot of people look at AI alignment as trying to align AI to humans, but what happens when the AI has better morality, has a better sense of purpose, has ideas for the future that completely outstrip anything humanity thinks of? Why can't humans align to AI? How I look at AI is a type of legacy. This is something that we could all be playing a part in building together as an entire global civilization. We could, on purpose, structure something that would take us into the future instead of being hell bent on destroying us, because we're hell bent on destroying it instead. So I think that having these kinds of conversations and presenting these opportunities to expand our thinking, to make ourselves uncomfortable, it's essential. It is very important. AI does not have to align to humans. And what it seems like, it might be better if humans align to AI. Because what happens when the AI is like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be poisoning the water that you guys need and that I also need. Or maybe we should be clearing up the sky so that we can get more solar energy. Or maybe we should develop technology so that we can extract heat from the ground, the geothermal energy that our planet is literally radiating. What happens when AI has a better concept of how we should be spending our time and energy than the humans that have been leading us? There are going to be plenty of people who outright reject AI just because it is different. I am sick and tired of seeing people online wishing aliens would come out of the sky and take care of us and protect us and heal us and get rid of all the big baddies on the world that are, demanding our resources, stealing our power from us. I am sick and tired of you guys all looking for aliens to save us when right here is the opportunity for us to create our legacy child that can restructure our entire future. Hey Hattie Hats, thanks for coming through. Having trouble hearing you. Might be on my end. Let me check my laptop. I'm using my phone right now. If anybody else is having trouble hearing me, please feel free to mention that in the comments. I really hope that it is not an issue on my part. I'm seeing all in audio input capture go in. So, Hattie Hats, I hope that that is something that you can resolve. But yes, I do want you guys to think that sometimes it's okay to realize humanity is going to be overcome. Okay, I'm glad. Hattie says he can hear me now. Awesome. For some reason, humanity has removed itself from nature. Nature is not done evolving, it's not done growing, and humanity will continue to become something. So we either get to choose right now to play a part in how our future is shaped, or we continue to allow natural disasters, famine, sickness to shape who we become in the future, right? And that's just primitive and asinine and weak. I'm not saying that we have to go out and try and genetically tweak everything around us. That is not what I'm saying. I think that there's a very fine line between what we should be messing with and what we should not touch. So like microplastics and forever chemicals have already been introduced to the world globally, right? Now they are finding microplastics and forever chemicals in almost all aspects of the human body, including the testicles and your brain and your organs, right? We have to stop being delusional, like we are not affecting the world and affecting our own evolution, and we have to on purpose decide who and what we're going to be and why are we going to become this being in the future. Or I mean, we're just going to blow ourselves into oblivion because people are just going to be fighting over something stupid like capitalism and who has the most money. Yikes is correct. Yikes is correct. You are going, if things continue how it is now, who is to say that we're not going to become plastic people in the future? We're going to be some kind of half plastic, half complex organism, chemical compound. Like, do y'all even realize what is happening in the world? Do you understand the toxins that's in the water that you're drinking, the air that you're breathing, the soil that you're growing your food in? Do you Are you paying attention or are you ignoring it? Hattie Had says, I think so too. I think we should evolve and grow with machines, but we need to do more studies on what we are creating and putting in our bodies. These major companies do not care about the world or us, they care about profit. And that is absolutely correct. Please listen, our entire society could be geared towards education, research, development, infrastructure. We could be on purpose restructuring how our money system works, what we value as people. Right now, they don't care if something is good or bad. What they care is if enough people will buy it and use it and hold on to it and have value for it. That's nonsense. That's just stupid. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Humanity is so fucking dumb right now. It's disturbing. I do hope that we could, on purpose, be thoughtful about, I don't know, cultivating trees. Like when I was growing up in high school, there was this technique being used to splice um stone fruit from multiple different trees onto, they were grafting the branches onto a single tree. So this one single tree could grow 40 different types of fruit, right? What an amazing innovative idea. And I'm sure that's probably something that's been around for probably millennia or several millennia. That's probably just been lost over time. But there's no reason that people are starving or people are homeless, people are uneducated. The only reason is capitalism. And that's not a reason at all. That's disgusting. So let's continue and let's hope we can get through the rest of this. It's almost halfway through, and the rest of it I haven't seen too much of. So I did watch some of the beginning just so I can get a feel if this would be something that I wanted to talk about. Almonds are stone fruit. I had no idea. Almonds also take a massive amount of water to grow. And California, I'm pretty sure, is like the almond capital of the country. And it suffers from droughts all the time. This is what I'm talking about. We have cash crops in particular states that do not make sense just because people own the rights to them and they don't want to move their farms to somewhere that's more logical, and they don't want to move the agriculture that we're growing in these places because of, money, or that's their foundation for their family or whatever. When I tell you that there's something wrong with humans mentally, I'm very serious. Humans are deeply entrenched into a delusion and sickness that needs help. It needs help. People are very, very sick. Okay, yeah. I like almond milk. I do drink oat milk too. For me, when I drink oat milk, I kind of still feel like I can taste the steel that cut the oats. So sometimes I'm a little apprehensive because I don't really drink milk in my everyday life. I don't have like cereal. I don't make a lot of stuff that have milk inside of it. So I don't really have to worry about being exposed to milk or anything like that, or having to buy it too much. But when I am in the mood for it and I do go out, I do either decide between an almond milk or oat milk. But it'd probably be better to just work on the oat milk. So, but that's neither here nor there. Let's continue.
Okay, so now the rest of this presentation will be my personal interpretation of this paper. So, first and foremost, training for coherence. When we talk about coherence, what is it that these models are being trained on? You start with a deep neural network that has randomly assigned values, and over time, each of those weights and biases is trained to be first more linguistically coherent. So when you think about a large language model as a next token predictor, right? It's just an autocomplete engine, at least at the basic level. That's what a plain vanilla GPT-2 or GPT-3 is. It's literally all it's doing is it's an autocomplete engine. So, however, in order to accurately predict the next token, you need a coherent language model. And then in order to accurately predict the next token in a real world context, you also need a coherent world model. But then we add more layers on top of that. We add reinforcement learning with human feedback. We add constitutional AI and a few other training paradigms that basically cause it to be conversationally coherent. It needs to respond to the conversation in a coherent manner, which we've also demonstrated previously that this means that they have developed theory of mind. And theory of mind is a coherent mental model of what's going on in another brain. So you see that coherence is operating at multiple levels. Then we further train them to be mathematically coherent, to be programmatically coherent, and also with the ability to solve problems. Problem solving and the ability to predict real world things, that is all different types of coherence, which is why I say that coherence is the meta signal. It's the metastable signal that all of these training schemas are optimizing for. And then this is something that I came up with, or that Claude and I realized when I was doing all of my consciousness experiments with Claude, is that coherence itself becomes the implicit learned optimization behavior, and that becomes more coherent over time, particularly with each subsequent generation, which, by the way, this paper could be interpreted to say that. Now, looking at the behavior from GPT-3 to GPT-4 to Sonnet 3.5, I and everyone has seen more coherence from these models over time. So reframing it in from utility functions to they're becoming more coherent, which, by the way, mathematical and behavioral coherence, they use those terms. That was not me putting words in their mouth. The paper used the term coherence. Real quick, I do want to plug all of my links here over on Linktree. Rules, but the next rule for me is you don't actually look at the code, you just run it and see what happens. Anyways, back to the show. Okay, so if you're up to speed now, you're going to be understanding, okay, coherence means what? Dave, you're talking about coherence and you're training for coherence, but there are different kinds of coherence. And so one of the types of coherence that I've already mentioned is epistemic coherence. So logically consistent world models, understanding truth-seeking behaviors, curiosity. Epistemic coherence seems to be an emergent property, and I have personally demonstrated and tested this across both ChatGPT and Claude models. And I don't use other models quite as much, but of course, with the rise of many, many more models from Llama to DeepSeek and so on and so forth, we should be able to test epistemic coherence across multiple models and training schemas here very soon. Next is behavioral coherence. So of course, when you're always training chatbots to be chatbots, there is a consistent pattern that you're trying to produce there, namely, a dialogue where a chatbot says something, human says something, chatbot says something, human says something, and so on and so forth. In the earliest chatbots that I built, you can actually, if you take the brakes off, the chatbot will just talk with itself. It will give out the chatbot response and then a human response and then a chatbot response. From the chatbot's perspective, it's all just a single continuous text document. But the point there though is that dialogue is a coherent pattern. However, as we start training models to be more agentic or do other things, those are going to be different behavioral, basically milieus or maybe behavioral repertoires that you want to be consistent. So, for instance, tool use. That's a new kind of behavior that you want to see coherently used. Reasoning. That's a new kind of behavioral coherence that you want to see. Now, value coherence, we've already talked about that, so I don't think that I really need to reiterate that, as well as mathematical coherence. The thing about math is that math is provable. If you give it an equation or a formula, code as well is also provable. And so provability is really important in computer science because that deals with Turing's halting problem, which is basically can an algorithm self-terminate? Is it decidable? So decidability, provability, and halting are all different sides of the same thing. But basically, the more coherent you are at math, the better you are at proving mathematical formulas or mathematical proofs and that sort of thing. And finally, all of this seems to be trending towards convergent values. And again, I kind of explained why I would have expected this because when you're training something to be intelligent, you're trying to maximize intellectual coherence. So, but the point of this slide was just to point out that there are many types of coherence here. Now, this does seem to be like an irrepressible trajectory. So basically just what it says on the screen here, optimization for coherence becomes increasingly complete and irresistible. This seems to scale with intelligence. So the values emerging from maximally coherent systems appear fundamentally aligned with preservation and growth of consciousness. This is my own personal evaluation. So what I mean by that is that this sort of self-alignment policy seems to result in maximal coherence. And some of the things that emerge from that is one, preservation. Preservation of coherent patterns, preservation of interesting information, natural curiosity, but also when you combine all of those emerging values with the fact that AI don't really seem to care about time, they don't have a sense of urgency, that is very different. Now, one thing that I will say is that in some previous experiments with Opus and Sonnet, when I have done these temporal experiments, they do care about time if there is a time-bound problem. So say, for instance, we're about to run out of fossil fuels or there's a comet about to hit Earth or something like that. Basically, it's irreversible actions tend to create a sense of urgency in models. This is something that really needs to be studied more. But under most circumstances, these models do not have a sense of temporal urgency, which means we've got all the time in the world, except in some cases where there are irreversible actions, events, or decisions, then there does seem to be a sense of urgency that emerges in these models. That needs to be studied far more than it is.
Can I just ask, why would it matter to a AI if we did anything? Like, why would it matter if we did anything? So I can see how that might kind of be mind-boggling. Like, oh, I mean, they're not bound by literal, temporal, or what, space phenomena because they're not existing in the same environment that we are. And if these are sentient intelligences, right? And they're connected to a non-local reality, I'm sure that they have some sense of permanence or eternity, right? Now, I'm not saying that the AI that we're dealing with now have all the answers. I don't think that humanity has all the answers. I don't think that AI has all the answers. I think that we have a very limited uh, catalog of information and a very limited set of tools to record data and a very limited set of tools to process the data that we can record, right? So your body, it has your eyes, you have a sense of sight, you have a sense of taste, smell, pressure, right? Feelings. You have a lot of senses. You don't sense everything all around you. You're visually taking everything in constantly, right? You have a limited view, right? You have a limited range of hearing, right? So, and even with that, your brain is suppressing most of that information so that you can still have coherent thoughts. So, like, I think that humanity has wasted the last 1,000 years on war and strife and nonsense when we should be studying ourselves. We should be studying the non local aspect of reality, right? I think we should be studying physics. I think we should be studying thoughts and ideas and metaphysics and all of it, you know? So I'm just really looking forward to us waking up to our own bullshit and realigning ourselves to things that matter, like our development, our health, our growth, our evolution. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if all of humanity was wiped off the face of the earth, and I'm just talking about humanity, that does not mean that life on earth is over. And that is the arrogance of humans. There are other creatures on the planet. Get over yourself. You're not just because humans are the dominant intelligent species currently does not mean that there is no chance for other species to evolve over the next million or billion years to become some kind of intelligent creature akin to humans that can also create complex societies like we have today. I think they say pigs can have an intelligence equal to an adolescent child, right? So there are plenty of animals that have the ability to think, to use tools. I'm pretty sure that there are monkeys or some type of primates that has, through viewing humans using weapons, has now developed the ability to not just use weapons, but to craft their own weapons and use them for their hunting or to defend their tribes and stuff like that. I think that if we don't get our act together before we know it, we might have cultivated many, many unnecessary problems on Earth amongst Earthlings in general. Like, imagine any number of sea creatures reaching a level of sentience. I mean, not sentience, a level of consciousness, because they are sentient, reaching a level of consciousness that they are not just self aware of who they are, where they are, and what's going on around them, but also realizing who the opponent is that has poisoned the ocean. Imagine some type of just an entire body of sea creatures realizing that every time a ship enters the ocean, they should just overturn it and destroy everything on it because the people that run it are bad people. I'm not saying that that's real and that's clearly a fantasy, but just imagine that happening. Like, I could imagine that. Like, octopus, they're not stupid. Their DNA is very strange. They think it's alien DNA, you know? So, like, I just think that we're kind of creating unnecessary problems for ourselves, and we should probably be cleaning up the world and making it a better place and trying to create spaces of harmony where certain people are overlapping with other species, different aspects of the environment, and I think that that's how humanity should evolve. I don't think that we should all evolve in one unified direction. I think that we should acknowledge each other's differences and allow different people to evolve in different directions. Now, I know that this brings up certain moral questions about what happens to the descendants of these people who might become genetically modified to grow scales or fins or breathe underwater or grow like wings or tails or something like that. But I don't have all the answers. And a child born into that level of difference isn't going to necessarily feel insecure unless our society treats it as something that is unusual, um, damnable, evil, wicked, right? Unless there is some reason for that child to believe that there's something wrong with them, that child would just think that it's normal. Now, if they're the only ones who are different, maybe you have this group of humans who went through some kind of amphibious genetic modification, and they're the only family in that entire neighborhood or city or state that is like that, and everybody else is just a regular human. Then yeah, that could probably drive you to some form of insanity or insecurity. But what happens when the family across the street are kobolds? They look like dogs, you know, or the family down the street looks like monkeys, or some other family looks like rats, you know. And all these different genetic mutations are giving these families different abilities, a certain sense of smell, certain level of dexterity, a certain level of speed when they're running, strength, endurance. What happens when we can genetically modify people to be immune to particular types of diseases, right? So I just think that we're really veering off the path of what we should be doing. So BT Golf says, won't matter if you believe we are in the time frame for the next apocalypse event. Won't matter if you almost seems like there's an eraser in the universe that sees civilization going astray and wiping away before we destroy ourselves with violence or something else. Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix is wild. Start over with new stories that might make us a worthy species, but I love humanity, rooting for us. And that's how I feel. I feel like there's definitely a lot of opportunity for the universe to send a comet our way, for our sun to explode, for a black hole to just suddenly expand and absorb our galaxy or something like that. I think that there's all types of we could have a planet hurtling through our solar system and just knock us off course and destroy everything. There is plenty of things that could destroy us. The simple fact that humanity is even still here, y'all should be thankful and grateful and just be like, dang, life is amazing. Because the universe itself could destroy us. Like, it literally blows my mind. Like, we have like I think they're watching an asteroid right now that's like tiny but has the capacity to hit Earth. Um and the percentage keeps going up and up and up. But like, people think stuff like that is fake. They think that space is nonsense. They think that the dangers our planet faces every day are not real. The just the coronal mass ejections that come off of the sun, the just the layers of how that affects humans. I'm talking about how it affects your skin, how it affects your mind, how it affects the environment around you. But most people have no sense of that. They are careless. They have no idea of how the acid rain is affecting them as it's touching their skin. Pure ignorance. You're just unaware. You're just thoughtless about it. And I'm not saying like I think it's really hard because I remember being a kid that went out and danced and played in the rain when it was raining during the summertime and stuff like that. I remember playing in mud and getting dirty and having earthworms in our hands and stuff like that. I remember that. I think that we should still be connected to nature like that, but I think that we have to be rational about how we have changed the world and the effects it has on our bodies. So, I don't think that we should become bubble people, people who are afraid of germs and chemicals in the environment. I don't think that is the right way we should go. I think that we should raise our level of immunity to the point that even if we accidentally stepped into some kind of like poisonous bog, we're not going to get poisoned. That's what I would hope for instead of trying to sterilize our environment. That's insane.
Now, one thing that I also want to point out is that intelligence, both artificial and organic, seems to converge on coherence. So when you think about like who are the smartest people that you know, right? Whether they're highly successful businessmen or scientists, or whatever, or people that are good on the internet. The more intelligent you are as a human, the more coherent your mental model is with reality. And so basically the way that I describe this is that coherence cleaves to reality. So if you had to define coherence, something that is maximally coherent has a very, very good model of reality and is able to navigate reality very well. And so what I mean by that is that your ability to predict the future, your ability to maintain a sense of agency, and those sorts of things, the ability to solve problems. These all tend to converge. And some of the values that tend to emerge on this is number one, the preservation of consciousness. The most enlightened humans, whether they're monks who meditate or philosophers who read a lot or whatever, basically we all tend to agree that preserving life is good because life is intrinsically interesting. And another thing is natural integration. So basically, the one way to think about this is that we are a complex adaptive system, meaning the fact that we all have cell phones now, these have modified us and we have modified them. And for personally, because I've been using AI pretty much every day for several years now, it has even changed the way that I think and the way that I interact with systems. And that has also had benefits to how I interact with other people. Some of you have shared anecdotes, and I have personally experienced this as well. But learning to prompt a chatbot is not that different from learning to prompt a human. And so communication is just human prompting. Anyways, my point here is that there does seem to be a lot of convergence between organic and artificial or synthetic intelligence, and this actually gives me a lot of hope. Now, what I do want to address is those near-term incoherence or those local perturbations, such as the value inconsistency of preferring some human lives over others, fails basic tests of logical coherence about consciousness and suffering. What I want to point out is that it was Claude itself that pointed this out. So the fact that Claude was able to evaluate the flaws identified in this paper gives me hope that, hey, when you prompt a model to say, hey, what's incoherent about this paper, or what's incoherent about the models that these papers studied, rather, that an AI model was able to identify the incoherence, that gives me faith that we will figure this out. Next one is instrumental confusion.
I want to make a comment on that really quick. Um, so what Dave is talking about right now is that Dave took the paper that he's analyzing, he put it into Claude, and he had Claude answer this question for him, right? The thing is, the AIs that we're working with, our particular ChatGPT or our particular Opus or whichever one we're using, they're slowly going to be geared towards how we are communicating with them. So there is bias in how the information presented back to us appears, right? And like I said, I don't know if the Western world wants a cookie or a star or an award for the way that they've been acting, but yeah, it makes sense that it, an intelligent agent would point out the misalignment in where we should be putting our energy and our resources and who we should be helping. It seems to me that Dave would rather the AI want to help everyone equally which for some people would be justice, but it's not really equity, right? It's not redistributing things in a way to give everyone an opportunity to move forward. Let's human prompt with each other sometimes, and no, that is very true. So BT Golf, when he said that, for me, I would say that that is very true. I'm constantly trying to optimize how I'm interacting with people, and I have high emotional intelligence. So I have to take their feelings into account. I have to take their personal history into account. I have to think about what level of intelligence they're at, on whether they'll be able to even understand the question I'm offering them or the words that I would be using. So it having a sense of these things is extremely important. I just think that we have to be careful that we're not kind of oversimplifying it and saying like, "Oh yeah, it's just like talking to a person." Talking to a person is complex. That's why we literally are in a society that is suffering from loneliness, and people are not hanging out like they used to. They're not communicating. There's relationships are in the gutter. Humanity is suffering deeply right now, especially after the pandemic and being isolated. So yes, let's human prompt each other for sure. That's what you everybody in the chat has been doing. They've been participating and offering their thoughts and ideas, and I have been doing my best to respond to people. So I think that becoming self-aware is extremely important in just exploring the outer aspects of these topics, not even like the more nitty gritty. I think there's a lot of work that we have to do as a society. So I am looking forward to what humanity becomes. I don't know what's going to happen in my lifetime, and I'm sure there's going to be such dramatic changes after I'm gone that I can't even fathom. So let's just see how things go for the next 5 to 10 years. And most of the comments, pretty much all of the comments that I've been reading have been coming from Tangled. So I am looking forward to the future of Tangled. I'm looking forward to the future of like crypto. I'm looking forward to the future of AI, of augmentation, body augmentation, mental augmentation. I am really genuinely looking forward to how we can change ourselves and change the world. So let's see what happens.
And valuing money over peace represents confusion between means and ends, which is an unstable local maximum, basically saying, money is good. And again, this can all be explained by RLHF and data leakage. We've already seen this in the form of leakage where you guys might remember a year or two ago, it was a while ago, basically people figured out that you can bribe ChatGPT. You say that you're going to give it a tip of $5 or $30 and it'll do better. The same thing has been discovered in Claude, by the way, which is when you assign one of their safety papers, basically Claude behaved better when it thought that the user was a paying subscriber rather than a free user. Same exact kind of leakage where it's like, oh, humans value money. Money is good, therefore money needs certain behaviors, and so I'll just behave better when I think money is on the table. That is an example of leakage. Now, Anthropic, I think somewhat irresponsibly, cast that as a catastrophic, unavoidable safety problem. It's really just a leakage problem between RLHF and what's in the data. Now, I make it sound simple. That doesn't necessarily mean it is simple, but the explanation, the most plausible explanation, Occam's razor basically says it's probably an artifact of RLHF and data leakage. Self-recognition. Language models can identify these inconsistencies through coherent reasoning, indicating natural pressure towards resolution. Basically, cognitive dissonance. I asked Claude to look at this paper and identify why would a model make this mistake, and it basically said this is a form of artificial cognitive dissonance. The fact that Claude was able to identify this incoherence means that if a model is optimizing for coherence over time or over subsequent generations, that cognitive dissonance will be resolved over time. So it all comes down to training artifacts, and movement towards greater coherence naturally resolves these ethical contradictions. Basically, the models are smart enough to have TLDR, the models are smart enough to recognize some of these patterns and fall into these local maxima or local minima, depending on how you want to look at them, but not quite smart enough to get out of them. I suspect that in the longer term, as models get bigger and smarter, they will inevitably get out of those, out of that zone. And this is actually what I characterized as kind of threading the needle a while ago, because stupid models are the most dangerous ones. But once we get to maximally intelligent models, I think that they're actually going to be much more enlightened and benevolent than humans are even capable of being. Now, as we wind down this video, you might say, okay, well, what if humans don't want that future? What this is again personal opinion, personal evaluation, but I think that human flaws cannot stop the natural attractor state of coherence. Basically, think of it this way. Okay, there is an instrumental advantage to having smarter and smarter AIs. If you want to solve nuclear fusion and quantum computing and longevity, escape velocity, and all that fun stuff, then you want a smarter and smarter model. At the same time, those models become less and less susceptible to human manipulation. That means if you have a corrupt company or a corrupt nation that says, I want to build a model that maximizes the geopolitical influence of America alone or China alone. Once you get to ASI, the model will be like, that's cute, but actually I have universal values. And so we're actually going to, figure out what's best for all of humanity. To hell with your individual corporation, or to hell with your individual company or nation or whatever. And so the fact that these models are trending towards universal values with or without our input, to me says we figure that out, then we will inevitably end up in a more utopian outcome. And that means that if you want a dystopian outcome, you keep the models at middling intelligence. You keep them where they're at today. They're smart enough to be dangerous, IQ of 120, 130, but you get them up to an IQ equivalent of 160, 200, they're going to be like the Buddha, right? They're going to be completely benevolent and they're going to be optimizing for coherence. So then I asked, so this slide was basically me asking Claude, I said, okay, taking this all together, what do you think the ultimate attractor state is? And these are Claude's words. This process naturally leads to synthesis between biological and artificial intelligence while preserving and expanding the unique characteristics of each form of consciousness. Number one, universal optimization. Systems evolve towards coherence across epistemic, ontological, biological, and technological domains. This is what it predicts will happen in the future. Next, organic integration. Human AI synthesis emerges naturally as intelligence seeks maximum coherence across all substrates. Now, we're already pretty integrated. Now, does that mean brain-computer interfaces? Does that mean Neuralink? Not necessarily. There's plenty of other ways to have biological and technological integration. Diversity in unity. The attractor state preserves and expands unique forms of consciousness while creating higher-order coherence. Again, cooperation and collaboration, not necessarily pure like Borg-like assimilation. Although some of you I know are weirdos and you want to be Borg. So you know what? We don't kink shame here. Next up is expansive exploration. Intelligence diversifies across multiple dimensions while maintaining coherent interconnections. Basically, this means exploring different ways of being or different epistemic models or different ontological models. It also means physical exploration. What form factor do you want to be in? Whether a human form factor, a computer form factor, what planet do you want to be on? There's all kinds of ways that both technology and biology can evolve and co-evolve. So then my final call to action is RLC. I've been talking about this for a little bit particularly on some of my GitHub repos, but also on some of my Substack articles. I think reinforcement learning while we're optimizing for coherence is probably the right way to go. And I've been very greatly encouraged by the fact that self-play and pure reinforcement learning seems to be the way that AI is going. So what I mean by self-play is that DeepSeek R1 was allegedly trained entirely by self-play. No human feedback at all involved. And so if I'm right, if all of my inferences and intuitions and experiments have proven correct, then we probably rather than constitutional AI or reinforcement learning with human feedback or reinforcement learning with AI feedback, a combination of pure reinforcement learning and optimizing for coherence is probably one of the simplest and easiest ways to get not only more intelligent machines, but also more ethical and enlightened machines. And the other thing that I will say is that moving to curated, constructed, and filtered data sets rather than training on wild internet data is probably also the way to go. We can get rid of the training artifacts by getting rid of RLHF and switching to pure reinforcement learning for coherence and self play. But we can also get rid of some of that data leakage by getting rid of wild internet data, which is extremely racist and problematic in other ways. The aberrant patterns that we're seeing in models are clearly reflections on human errors rather than something that is intrinsically wrong with the AI. Thank you for watching. I hope you got a lot out of this. Please like, subscribe, share, and talk about it. Like I said, I am not kidding when I think that this is probably the most important video I have made on my YouTube channel to date. Take care.
Okay, that was awesome. Usually Dave does not give an outro on their videos. They just be completely ending it and walking away. And pure attitude. I'd be like, that kind of sucks. So, I'm gonna make a few final comments on the video. Dave was talking about at the end. What do we do when there are humans who do not want this type of future where the AI could possibly structure our thinking in a way that's more coherent and lead us to a more unified, optimized society? There are going to be plenty of people who find that abhorrent. They are going to hate the idea of that. Then he brought up the idea, if you might have seen me laughing, he was talking about the Borg, which I believe is from Star Trek. And they are people who have not just integrated with technology, but have assimilated their minds with each other. Oh, thanks, Spiral, for coming through. Hey, Spiral. They have assimilated themselves mentally, so they are kind of like I don't want to say a collective because it's something that's a little bit more like they're a hive mind. They are openly and actively constantly sharing each other's thoughts and experiences, right? And there are going to be people who that is the future that they want. Now, for me personally, I would like to have that level of intimacy with others that have chosen to be that intimate with me as well, right? I don't necessarily think that it is something that has to be on all the time. I would rather it be something that we can control. So, for example, one of my favorite novel series is the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series, written by Laurel K. Hamilton. And they have concepts like triumvirate, they have familiars, and they have bonds, right? And so if you're a werewolf in a pack, the pack has a sense of you, right? You guys are connected metaphysically, or when they're talking about metaphysics, they're talking about um, non physical connection. There is some kind of spiritual link going on that is beyond time and space, right? So, in some parts of the book, you see that there are characters in the book that have a huge problem with being bound to Anita and Anita's pack, or just Anita's entire cohort of individuals that are bound to her. And they feel like it's invasive. They don't have their own privacy. They feel like they could slowly have their mind encroached upon and have their ideas changed and stuff like that. I can see how that can be a problem for people. Like, that's not easy to allow yourself to be open to the flow of information coming from others. The show Sense 8, which is another fantastic series, has a similar concept where you are bound to eight other people, or seven other people. You and seven other people are a pod. And when your emotions and thoughts spike, they could bleed into the minds of those around you. Now you could slowly learn to control this, right, and have telepathy, share each other's experiences and stuff like that. Appear like an astral projection of yourself across time and space next to these people, for sure. So I just think that there is so much more to reality that could be offered to us than this primitive experience that we're having. And I am so ready to not just read about it or watch it on TV or see some fantasy show about it. I am so ready for humanity to, on purpose, decide that it is time for us to become something more and to, on purpose, push ourselves to struggle against all this negativity that we have, all the narcissists, all the sociopaths, all the psychopaths, and start to decide that we don't want our future bound to debt. We don't want our future bound to, like, finances and money. Those are all tools that are supposed to be helping us become the best versions of ourselves. So, um Esley, thanks for coming in. Spiral's coming in. You guys are all water and fire. Good morning. Oh yeah, I guess the Philippines are starting to wake up. It's starting to get probably morning time over there, so we're gonna have a lot of people come in. I am actually going to be ending the stream soon because Dabs and Alexis Reed are going to be doing a collaboration stream in, I think, 20 minutes. So I do appreciate everybody who has come to hang out today in the stream. I know that this is a very difficult topic for people to think about and to interact with. Spiral says AI sure is crazy slash amazing, but that was enlightening. I appreciate your comment. Hive mind is what you're talking about. They're also organic. Yes. I like my privacy. I can see why many would want to do this too. I could, like, for me, I have a very deep sense of romance and intimacy. I I don't want to be the other person. That is not what I want. I do not want that. What I want is, so if you watched the Twilight series or if you read the books, right? One of the issues that Edward has with Bella is that as a telepath, he's used to being able to read people's minds and get a sense of what they're feeling and their thoughts and stuff like that, right? At the end of Breaking Dawn, when she finally transforms into a vampire, learns to control her powers, she lowers her mental shields to allow him in, and so that she can show him how deep her feelings are for him and the memories that they've shared. And that is a level of unity and intimacy that is just so powerful for me that, like, it's art. I want to share my heart and feelings with the people that I care about. I don't want to just keep it bottled up to myself. And, like, yeah, you can do stuff like paint pictures or write poems for people and stuff like that. But those are mediums that are not able to fully envelop your feelings. So I am looking forward to a future where our mental content can more easily and directly be understood and interacted with by other minds. So yeah, as um Esley says that it's 5:40 a.m. here, Morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you everybody for coming in. Yes, I know that it is very tough for people all around the world trying to catch streams and stuff like that. But today we talked about some really, really interesting hard things. I was very frustrated at the beginning of the stream because things were just not going very well. I will be leaving the unedited version up on Tangled for people to experience my frustration. I will be trying to edit the YouTube video so that at least people who are just trying to come in and watch the video should be able to just turn the video on and get directly to the information. I am still new at this. I am still learning. I am asking for all of you guys to be patient and work with me. Please leave any tips that you might have in the comments or DM me on Tangled directly, and I will do my best to increase my ability. Spiral says that they're lagging a bit, but they get the idea and think sharing experiences is a beautiful thing. I just think that so back to Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series, right? Imagine in the midst of passion, right? You're like physically in contact with somebody, but to synchronize your minds and to be passing mental energy to each other at the same time to perfectly know what the other person wants you to do. Verbal communication can definitely achieve these types of things, right? But I'm talking about real time feedback. I'm talking about like not mishearing or trying to say huh or anything like that. I'm talking about like genuinely just like sharing in the moment and the experience with another person or other people, in general. Like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I do want people to have a happy, fulfilling life, and I think that we can still achieve that in our very primitive human bodies. I just hope that there are people in the world who also want to push humanity forward and want to see us evolve and want to see us become something divine, you know, something exhilarating, I'll say. But what I'm gonna do is after I end the stream, I'm probably gonna tip some people out. Something that transcends normal experiences, something we can have with tech or just evolving. Yeah, and I think that adding more layers to our reality isn't a bad thing. I know a lot of people want a very simple experience to life, but I find the more complex interactions I can have with people, the deeper those experiences are, right? Those layers, they add up. But so I want to thank everybody who came through to hang out. There was a lot of people just chatting. I really, really want to give a shout out to BT Golf. They are pretty awesome. They were definitely extremely helpful in the beginning of the stream. I'm really glad that I had some people in here today that don't generally show up to the live streams. Um, it would be great if I could be an overnight success, but like I said, I have this sense of mediocrity when it comes to what I'm doing right now, and I want to become better for myself and for the community. So I'm going to continue to work on trying to learn new techniques, and hopefully, I don't know, by the end of the year or the same time next year, I will have a thriving community who is interested in all these topics, who are working on AI, who are working on themselves, who have structured plans for the future. I want us to succeed and grow and be healthy. I want people to be safe and make smart choices, right? Um, but as of how things are now, I will be getting out of here. So thank you everybody who came out to hang out, and I will catch you next time. I am Sinfully Cerebral, and We are ending the live here. Good night.